Hello friends, good evening everyone. Today we will discuss about obesity and obesity related anesthetic complications. First of all, what is obesity? Obesity is that the body, if the body weight exceeds the ideal body weight by more than 10 percentage, or if the fat content is more than 25 percentage for males and more than 30 percentage for females, then we call it as obesity. Obesity, that is obesity we classify according to the body mass index. So the body mass index, how we calculate the body mass index? It is a weight divided by height in a meter square. So if it is the body mass index is less than 18.5, it is underweight. If it is from 18.5 to 24.99, it is a normal body mass index. 25 to 26.9, it is overweight, and from 27 to 30, it is a mild obesity. More than 30, it is a moderate obesity, and more than 35, it is severe obesity, and more than 40, it is a morbid obesity. So more than 50, we call it as a super obesity. So usually in a morbidly obese patient, we have to ask for a history of symptoms of diabetes, like urinary tract infection, blurred vision, then a tingling sensation in the feet, slow healing of the cuts and the wounds. Then we have to ask about the history of obstructive sleep apnea, like daytime somnolence, or snoring, or morning headaches, etc. And we have to ask the patient whether they can ability to lie supine, because many patients, they are unable to lie flat, and they routinely sleep sitting in an armchair. And we have to ask about nutritional deficiency, because they tend to do weight reduction diet, and that weight reduction diet put them the risk for many nutritional deficiencies. And also the obesity people, they use amphetamine based weight reduction drugs, which put them the risk of a perioperative cardiac risk. In obese patients, we cannot rely on exercise tolerance as a cardiopulmonary reserve. Then pharmacological stress, like test like dobutamine stress and adenosine would be indicated for a morbidly obese patient. Then if a non-invasive tests are positive, then we can go for invasive test in the form of cardiac catheterization. So usually ischemic heart disease, hypertension, and cardiac failures are all associated with obesity. In obesity, the adipose usually the adipose tissue has a resting blood flow of 2 to 3 ml per 100 gram per minute. It can increase to tenfold after meals. And also in obesity, the perfusion of the blood per unit mass decreases. It decreases from 2.36 milli per minute to 1.53 ml per minute. And also yes, this happens when the percentage of the fat increases from 20 to 36 percentage. So the perfusion per unit mass also decreases. And also if each kilogram of fat above the ideal body weight requires an increase in cardiac output of 20 to 30 ml. So this increase in cardiac output is achieved through increase in the stroke volume, but not heart rate. So the left ventricle hypertrophy develops, which is an eccentric type of hypertrophy, and also left atrium is also enlarged due to increase in the blood volume and venous return. Later left ventricle hypertrophy and diastolic dysfunction are responsible for increased left atrial size. And also due to pulmonary hypertension, due to sleep apnea, which commonly we can see in obese patient, due to pulmonary hypertension, there is a alteration in the right ventricular structure and function, and also due to this hemodynamic alterations. Okay, then increased free fatty acids after repolarization, and also due to increased catecholamines, there is a risk of arrhythmias and sudden cardiac arrest. So how we calculate blood pressure? Usually we calculate blood pressure is the cardiac output into systemic multiplied by systemic vascular resistance. In obese patient, the blood pressure is increased by 6.5 mm mercury for every 10% increase in the body weight. So in obese patient, the systemic vascular resistance is low, and also the adipose tissue acts as an endocrine organ and synthesizes a variety of peptides and non-peptide like interleukin 6, plasminogen activator inhibitor 1, resistin, and lipoprotein lipase. All this will lead to low-grade inflammation and overactivity of the sympathetic nervous system, and also disordered sleep pattern in the obese patient by sometimes increase the systemic vascular resistance. So we can see hypertension is more prevalent with increasing obesity. Then we will see about what is obesity cardiomyopathy. In obesity cardiomyopathy, usually all the yeah, like a synoatrial node, AV node, right bundle branch, and myocardium are all infiltrated by the fat cells. These fat cells cause a conduction block, like a synoatrial conduction block, atrioventricular node block, bundle branch block. All this infiltration will cause the pressure-induced myocyte degeneration, and also triglycerides in monocyte will cause a decreased cell dysfunction. So will cause a cell dysfunction. So the adipokines secreted by adipose cells will indirectly damage the myocytes. So in obesity, generally there will be an increase in blood volume and cardiac output. All this will lead to ventricular dilatations and hypertrophy, and ventricular hypertrophy that leads to diastolic dysfunction, and also we can see systolic dysfunction can also occur in obesity. So obesity cardiomyopathy can also occur in the absence of systemic hypertension and underlying heart disease. So perioperative echo is indicated in all the morbidly obese patient, and usually in morbidly obese patient, death is due to progressive heart failure and sudden cardiac death. So what is the pulmonary involvement in morbidly obese patient? They will be having decreased pulmonary reserve and also increased incidence of restrictive lung disease. Their lung volume is decreased. Similarly, functional residual capacity, total lung capacity, and expiratory reserve volume, everything is decreased. And during anesthesia, all these volumes are further decreased due to anesthesia, supine position, and post-operative pain will worsen the respiratory function due to decreased chest wall compliance due to deposition of fat in the chest wall. So all this will lead to decreased respiratory reserve, difficulty in ventilation, and faster desaturation. Okay, then in obese patients we can see the obstructive sleep apnea. Due to obstructive sleep apnea, there will be like a hypertension, left ventricular hypertrophy, right ventricular hypertrophy, or other sequelae of obstructive sleep apnea. So how the diagnosis is made? Diagnosis is made by polysomnography. And also it is suspected from clinical symptoms and signs. So there will be like a habitual snoring, interrupted nocturnal sleeping, then excessive daytime sleepiness, arterial hypertension, nocturnal waking up unrefreshed in the morning, and morning headaches are all seen with obstructive sleep apnea. In obstructive sleep apnea, there will be abnormal anatomy of the pharynx. So easy collapsibility of the upper airway and the defective airway reflexes all will lead to obstructive sleep apnea. And also there is a deposition of fat in the lateral pharyngeal wall. So that results in a decreased patency of the pharynx and increased risk of airway collapse. So vibration of the upper airway due to turbulent flow will results in snoring, and also the pharynx tend to collapse due to Bernoulli effect. So what happens in obstructive sleep apnea? There will be like hypercapnia and hypoxia. It leads to awakening and opening of the pharynx due to increased upper muscle activity. Improved breathing decreases the CO2 and improves the oxygen saturation. This cycle repeats with the sleep onset. Very sensitive to these patients are very sensitive to narcotics and sedatives. So challenging period is the extubation period and post-op period. So we have to balance like post-op pain relief and apnea. And also there will be like a low baseline partial pressure of oxygen, but oxygen supplementation does not improve the PO2. The longer periods of apnea and respiratory center is stimulated by hypoxia, and it is not by hypercarbia. So what is obesity hypoventilation syndrome? It is also called Pickwinian syndrome. So obesity hypoventilation syndrome, it is a combination of the morbid obesity, hypersomnolence, edema, and plethora. So we can see hypercapnia at rest as well as in the awake period. So we can see hypercapnia at rest as well as in awake period. So the combination of a respiratory center disorder, and there will be like a decreased chest wall compliance. So usually diagnosed when BMI is more than 30, and also there will be like a resting hypercapnia in absence of hyperventilation, in absence of airway obstruction, in absence of drug overdose, and in absence of neuromuscular disorders. So there is a mnemonic for obstructive sleep apnea, that is a stop bang. S for there will be a snoring, T for tiredness. O for observation of the stopped breathing or choking or gasping during a sleep. Then P for high blood pressure, bang. B. BMI is more than 35 kilogram per meter square. A. Age more than 50 years. Neck circumference more than 43 centimeter, and in males, and more than 41 centimeter for females, and G for male gender. So the score of more than 3 has a high sensitivity but low specificity. So it is a validated, stop bank score is a validated screening tool for obstructive sleep apnea. Usually we do polysomnography for sleep related disorders. It includes oxygen saturation. We used to take a ECG, EEG, electromyogram, electrooculogram, airflow and respiratory effort measurement. So nasal and the oral airflow is measured using the pressure transducers or a thermocouple fitted near the nostrils. Identify the sleep architecture, number and degree of arousals, number and type of apneic episodes of oxygen desaturation, then severity of oxygen desaturation, cardiac arrhythmias, limb movement, disorders with REM sleep and seizure activity. So what are the indications for sleep studies? There is a witnessed apnea during the sleep greater than 10 seconds, excessive daytime sleepiness as evidenced by inappropriate daytime napping, sleep interferes with normal daily activities, Epworth sleepiness scale more than 10, socially disruptive snoring, BMI is more than 30, choking or gasping associated with awakening, violent or injurious behavior during the sleep. There will be like symptoms of narcolepsy such as sleep paralysis and hypnagogic hallucinations, cataplexy, or violent or injurious behavior during the sleep. Then there will be like nocturnal pulses show nocturnal desaturation such as unexplained right heart failure, unexplained polycythemia, presence or increase in the cardiac arrhythmia during the sleep, and also unexplained pulmonary hypertension. So excessive daytime sleepiness with a periodic limb movement also can be seen in the apnea hypoventilation syndrome. Thank you very much. Bye.